On this episode, we talk about strength and conditioning and how it's better to keep it simple. Welcome to another episode of Inside the League. I have with me today Ed Nordenschild of UVA Strength and Conditioning. Thank you so much, Ed, for coming on today.
Pleasure to be here.
Tell the audience a little bit about how you landed in the world of strength and conditioning.
I kind of backed into it a little bit. I've been a avid weightlifter since probably 1970, 80 something. But went back to school. Always interested in reading about strength and conditioning and weightlifting methods and exercises, and went to school. Did grad in biology and psychology, and then went to a master's program in exercise phys and found out there was such a thing as a strength coach in college, and went and applied for a graduate assistantship, got that, got my master's, and then they hired me at that school.
Super cool. Sounds like you kind of figured out your track as you went along. And so, from your point of view, what are the drastic differences between, I guess, high school strength and conditioning versus college, and then even going as far as the Olympic level?
I have limited knowledge about high school. I was a high school softball coach and took my team into the weight room, but that was in the mid 70s. So it was very, very early on. I know most high schools now have established strength and conditioning programs. I think the biggest difference probably would be you're starting at a grassroots level in high school. You're teaching people that have no background at all. Now in college, almost every athlete comes in with some background in lifting, either through a personal trainer or a high school or their club, whatever it is. But most college athletes now have some background in strength and conditioning.
Are there typically misconceptions or kind of incorrect information that you see people come in with at your program where you have to then help to correct?
It varies. I would say the biggest, I don't want to use the word enemy, but the biggest problem we face typically is what's available on the internet, whether it's podcasts or just regular social media. There's a lot of misinformation out there about the proper way to train. There's also many ways to skin a cat, so I'm not saying the way we do it is the only way. It's a way, not the way. But social media has really exploded, and now everybody's got an opinion about everything.
Right. I can definitely see how things like Instagram and TikTok, 3 best ways, could definitely be problematic if it's not really coming from an expert. In your studies and kind of your purview, what are some common things that you see with the most successful athletes that are like tried and true in strength and conditioning?
Once again, they just have a basic knowledge of basic barbell and dumbbell exercises. We don't do a lot of fancy stuff here. We have virtually no machines. It's all very hands-on, squat, deadlift, clean, Olympic lift. We would call it an Olympic-based program. All of our athletes do some form of Olympic lifting, obviously squats, bench press. It's very, I would call it basic. Not a lot of bells and whistles, but it gets the job done.
Definitely keeping it simple seems like the way to go for efficiency and probably effectiveness as well.
No
If
question.
someone is looking at a program kind of from your side of the fence, what should they look for in terms of that strength and conditioning program?
Well, be aware of anybody that's promising you the moon in a short period of time. Consistency is the biggest driver of gains in strength, conditioning, athleticism. You have to be consistent. Um, Aside from that, you can get strong doing. I mean, we use barbells and dumbbells, but you can do it with river rocks or med balls or whatever. I mean, there's no limit to the equipment that you can use to do it, but you've got to be smart, you got to be safe, and you have to have somebody qualified teaching you the basic exercises.
So it sounds like technique and instruction kind of trumps fancy tools in terms of actually getting progress in strength and conditioning.
No
If
question.
there are athletes that are interested in getting into the field of strength and conditioning, what kind of track do you suggest they take?
You At this point you need a degree, bachelor's, and now it's progressing to a master's degree in some aspect of exercise physiology, biology. Now they have majors in strength and conditioning, but the biggest classroom is the weight room itself. You have to find a way, whether you get paid, you volunteer, you intern, however that works, you need to get into the biggest classroom, which is on the floor of the weight room and working with athletes.
Sounds like hands-on training is kind of definitely the way to go still. It trumps all things Google. You still have to get your hands dirty, so to speak.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
Ed, tell everyone where they can find more about you.
Uh, Obviously, on the University of Virginia website, I don't do social media. I don't have a Instagram account or a Twitter or any of that stuff. But my background and what have you is on the UVA website. You can reach out to me there. I'm more than happy to respond to emails. Drop me an email. My email address is en4c@virginia.edu. Reach out to me. I'll get back to you within the week for sure.
Thank you, Ed, so much for being on today, and the information that you're sharing about how others can get in the field is super important. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.